dogs seem to fascinate everybody, whether it's in the book or whether you work with them full time. And I've found that since I've worked with him that I've become pretty popular. Not because of me, but because of the dog. So he's made quite a name for himself, and I'm pretty happy about that. So I'll take a little credit for helping him to that point, but he's the real star of the show.
Look at them.
Even them.
If anyone doesn't know, my name's Jim Ruddick, Officer Ruddick with the Montague Police Department. And I have Canine Artie, who works with me day in and day out. We literally work day in and day out because we can be called out at all different hours. So, as you know, along with our working hours that we go in, we oftentimes are called out all different hours in the middle of the night, during the day, evenings. So we will constantly go out when we're needed by our department or other surrounding towns who need the assistance of a canine. So we're pretty busy. Going back to just the dog himself, like I said, he's 6 years old. He is from originally Slovakia, and he has a passport from there. So when he traveled over, he had to have an official passport to come over. And he came over when he was 14 months old, and I got him through a vendor in Pennsylvania, Shallow Creek Kennels. And the guy that owns Shallow Creek Kennels is a retired canine officer from Florida. Well, he's from Pennsylvania originally, went to Florida, had a career, came back home and started a kennel. So he goes over and imports dogs and hand selects dogs from those regions over there. He's got some of his specific kennels he goes to that he has a working relationship with, so he can select good dogs to bring back over here. Most of the dogs that come over are not trained, but they've been through usually a year's worth of just testing to make sure that their nerve and their drive is going to be sufficient for police work and work such as that. So the dogs are usually the dogs that are selected have a drive of what they call either a prey drive or a hunt drive. They test their nerves environmentally, so if they, you'll probably see if I do bring him in the room, if I was to throw a ball under the table, on the table, through those chairs in the back corner, he's gonna go through, push his nose through and find any way to get to it he can to get to that toy or his prize or reward, or out in the wild, say his prey and rabbit. So he'll chase that down and it's not gonna get away from him. And so he has quite the nerve. If I ask him to, he'd jump right on this table and with no second thought. He'll go, if I ask him to go through something or into something, he will. That's another thing with the dog and the handler. We have such a bond that we have a trust for each other too. So he knows that I'm not going to lead him into anything that's going to severely hurt him. I'm going to watch out for his best interest. I get a little choked up when I talk about him like that because...
And he's the fastest runner in the state.
He's pretty quick.
Remember that day a couple months back you were running down Avenue A with him?
Yep.
Yeah, he was quick.
He's 6 now. I can see he's slowed down just a little bit, but not much. I noticed a little, as we all get older, we feel a few aches and pains, and I can feel it. So I think, at his age, at 6, he's still young and works as hard as he did before. But you notice a little bit of, he's a little slower moving, but it's not slow. I mean, just being with him full time, I can see the little bit, but you wouldn't be able to tell just by seeing him.
But I think also too, as dogs get older, they start to think a little more.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
How far into when you first receive the dog, it's your baby, how far in you say to yourself, boy, this is the dog?
Probably within the first few days, because we go down and select them. And he was the dog for me just on the way he worked, because the vendor where we get him through, they go select them, they bring them back, and then we go down, and out of all these dogs that they've selected, we'll select the dog for us. I had a trainer with me who helped me pick him out, and just as I mentioned how he would go through these chairs, under the table, anywhere to get his reward for that type of drive, we would test them on those things too. Well, I remember him coming into the room, and immediately we threw a toy onto a table, and it was almost like a tripod table. It was rickety, and he jumped right up on it, and it was shaking all over, moving all over. Didn't faze him at all. Went to get his toy, and that was kind of like, as soon as I saw that, I was like, this is the dog. But as hard as he works, when he's at home, he settles right down, and a true great companion too. When he's not working, he's a dog to me, and he does settle down at home in the kennel in his cruiser right now. Where he is, he's calm there. He's most likely.
Oh, he's at the ATM.
Yeah, probably.
He's making a withdrawal. I saw him over there.
But he's probably not barking. He might have a few barks, but he's not one to sit in the car and just bark at everything that walks by. So when he's in there, he's fairly calm, and when he's home, he has an outdoor kennel that has an indoor area for him to go to for shelter, and he's calm there. And then at night, of course, I bring him in, whether it's summer or winter. He gets a little air in the summer and heat in the winter. So I've got an area in the house where it's penned off, like sort of like a gate there. So he's got a big area for himself. Doesn't get run of the whole house, but he gets some home time too. So
I have a question. You said that you had a trainer that came with you.
Yeah.
Now, you guys picked out the dog.
Yeah.
Now, did he himself, the dog, feel attached to you or sort of liked you at that moment? Was there any?
He had no idea who I was or what I was
okay,
about.
so he didn't show any,
No.
'Cause sometimes when you go get puppies and that, say you got 5 of them and say one comes to you.
Yep.
So he did not do that?
No.
No.
I think only because he's, for the last year, he was 14 months, and when I selected him, I think he was only in the States for a couple days.
Oh.
So to him,
All new.
Is all
What's that?
new?
All new.
yeah, so to him, he's over here, all he knew for a year was probably in a kennel, going out and doing what they test him for, and, just doing things like that. And to him, I was just another person.
Yeah.
Be quite honest, when I first got him and took him by the leash, and I was ready to load him in the car to take the 8-hour drive back from Pennsylvania, I'm thinking, okay, this is my new dog. This is going to be great. We're going to, have a good career, have a good, do some great training. And so then I take the leash, and immediately he grabs on with his mouth to the leash and starts pulling, dragging, and I'm going, I don't think this is how it's supposed to work. And of course I'm looking around to see if anyone's watching from the kennel going, this guy's gonna handle the dog? He can't even control the dog right now, so I'm trying to be as cool as a cucumber, walking him around and letting him go to the bathroom before I put him in the car. And I'm thinking to myself, I was like, I'm sort of a little afraid of him right now, because I don't know what he's going to do next, because he doesn't know me.
No.
I don't know him. There's no bond. There's no trust
So
between
that was
us.
his first
So I don't know if he's going to
reaction.
go from the leash
Yeah.
to my leg. I don't know. So I'm like, kind of, hey, come on, back to the car. And then kind of, luckily, as soon as I open the car door, he jumps in the car. I'm like, Shut the door. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a deep breath. We're gonna take the ride home now. And so I do have to admit, after that, the first stop on the way home, taking him out, and I'm thinking, okay, once I take him out, is this gonna happen all over again? It didn't. He walked along with me, and I mean, just so it was fine. And after that, he never did that again.
So that was his reaction. Yeah. Okay.
So you said he's 6 now.
Yep.
What's the typical length of career of a police dog? When would he get
Usually in the training, it takes about once I get him, another solid year to get him working on the road and get him trained up to all his disciplines, whether, deciding on what disciplines you're gonna train into him. And you can bet on about a year before, of training and then getting him on the road. So that puts him at around 2 years old, because I got him at 14 months, right? So they say after that, an average of 6 to 8 years working time. So it puts him at around 8 to 10 years old. There are, you watch your dog. Like I said, he's getting older. I can see the little things going on with him. Not that there's nothing going on with him, but I can just notice different things. And
You do, because you're with him constantly.
right.
Right.
But if he's working fine, if he's healthy, and he's enjoys and doesn't balk at going in the car and going to work every day, and when I put that harness on him to go track, or his collar on him to go detect something, then I'll let him keep working. There's been a couple guys in our training groups that worked their dogs to close to 13 years old. They obviously watched them and didn't overexert them and did what they could do, but if they can still use their nose and they're willing to work, let them work. May not be as, physically at the capacity, but as long as that nose is working, they can still do everything they did before.
I see he did a good bust the other day.
Yeah, we can,
Yeah.
I actually, so we had a busy week. It goes in spurts. We usually go out a couple times on an average during a week, but I realized I hadn't updated his page in a while or posted anything. I'm not really good with that, with staying on top of that.
Yeah, but you responded me back.
Yep.
You did.
So I sat down and one morning I typed up some things of some of the things we did that week, and it actually got a great response. I was very surprised and excited about that, because, as soon as I put that out there, it's, just the notifications started ringing through. And next thing I know, I haven't seen it yet, but the Greenfield Recorder called and asked if they could do something in the paper. I haven't seen it yet. I don't know if anyone has or not. But, and then that night I noticed that the 22 News picked it up on Facebook and put it on the TV. So,
What would be,
so let's start with what he does and can do. So he's trained, mentioned about the training, he's trained in what we call patrol work. He's also dual trained in detection. So the patrol work involves anything that has to do with human odor. So that would be tracking, that would be building search, finding someone in a building. That would be an area search, finding someone in a vast woods where you don't know where they went in and you're not tracking them in. Article search, which would be human odor on an item. If I threw that on the ground, that's got human odor on it. Someone else threw it on the ground, that's got human odor on it before it dissipates. Fresh human odor, he would be able to find that. And then, of course, obedience. That's what the patrol work covers. Then detection could be, or he's trained in narcotics detection. Detection could be for bombs and all that type of real nose work for things other than human odor. So he's trained in narcotic detection. So out of those different disciplines that he does, he has to be trained in those, and we train with a group called North American Police Work Dog Association. It's a national program, master trainers that train with us. There's a lot of different agencies that you can train with. You can train with as many people as, or 8 different agencies as you want, right, and certify through as well. So I'm certified through them, and we have to train at a very minimum of 16 hours a month with the trainer or a group, training group, and that's at the minimum. We try to do a little bit more than that because there's a lot of disciplines he has to keep up on. And each year we go to a seminar or a training week, and we have to certify and be tested in all his disciplines. So he has to get signed off, checked off, watched over, make sure he's capable of doing the work. So each year we have to do that. It was close to a month ago when we did it this past year, middle of May, and it's kind of this is his 5th year that we certified together, and each year there's another title you earn if you go through your each discipline, and it's a pass-fail. But if they fail you, then you get a chance that week to redo it and pass. So each year he's passed on the first time on every one of his disciplines throughout those 5 years. So that earns him, each year it earns him a utility dog title. So just a little extra check. So he's pretty good as far as the dogs go around here and go even within the group. So I'm pretty, like I said, as far as the selection of Artie goes, he was the perfect dog for me, and I think I might be the perfect person for him too. We hope. You'll have to ask him. I'm not sure. But
It appears so.
yeah,
Where did you get your training for?
that would be through the organization.
Same thing.
We call them NAPWATA, the abbreviation for it. But through the trainers, and basically just from years of working around dogs, with dogs, you get that sort of I don't want to say, it's sort of a coordination when you work around dogs, and the knowledge plus coordination to have with it. So that helped.
Yeah.
That definitely helped in learning how to train a police dog. But as far as the overall training goes, these dogs are very, they're also selected to have what's called the clear head. So they're not just, well, he's a little frantic and spastic, but he knows when to turn it off and turn it on. And they are doing this because it's a game to them. You take some of their natural abilities and mold it into what you want or how you want them to do it. So they're not mean, aggressive, attack dogs. They're intense, working, smart, well-trained dogs that almost are a little more dangerous than just the mean attack dogs, in a sense, because he's going to do whatever I ask him to do. He's going to go through whatever I ask him to go through. So things have changed through the years of when police, working dogs, military police dogs first were being used, because the training is, gone through and is a little more intense and a little more thought through at using their natural abilities and positive rewards. And so really, to a dog, they love training, they love working, and it's fun, and it's a big game. They get a reward, they get it's a tug toy for his reward. We call it their paycheck. That's what they get paid. That's what he works for. And so he loves that. So when we go out, we can route this back right into the deployments that you asked about. When he goes out on deployments, he's going out to have fun. He's going out for training, and to him, there's no difference. He might feel if there's anyone that's going to mess him up in real deployments, it would be me, because my intensity might go up a little bit than it is in training. So he might see that and sense that. So you know, but I haven't noticed that yet in him. He, like I said, he knows the deployments. We've gone on so many of them that to him it's just another training day.
You're his book of rules.
What's that?
You're his book of rules.
Right.
He looks at you.
Yep,
And whatever you say goes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
As far as, I'll start with the last few deployments that I talked about this past week, if you didn't see them. I mean, it was a busy week, and with dog training, you go out and they weren't not successful, but each deployment you may not find what you're looking for. It doesn't mean it wasn't successful. It means that, you know, something environmentally got in the way of it, or person got too far of a head start, or if we're detecting something, there's really nothing there. There wasn't, you know, the suspicion that it was there. The dog's telling us it wasn't there, so we didn't find anything. And but this past week we went on more than what I mentioned for deployments, as far as the 3 ones that I mentioned on Facebook. But so you get a lot of call outs that you come home and you didn't find exactly what they thought they were going to find, and so that's fine, because each one of those leads up to your next best. You know, you learn from those. And going back to the first deployment we went on, that was pretty successful, that I wrote about, was right across the bridge over on Route 2, where a car had been pulled over. Well, he decided to pull into the business. It was a auto repair business. It was closed. It was Sunday on the long weekend, and so that didn't make sense to the officer. Why? And he said, "I'm pulling in here to fix my car." Well, it's closed. Why would you say that? And so some other thing, through the officer's observations and suspicions that he gathered, everything didn't seem to add up, and he's just checking to see if he's okay to drive, and so that again wasn't really adding up. And then the person or the operator decided to get out of the car, which you're not really supposed to do, and so he locked the doors behind him, and so that obviously didn't add up. And the windows were heavily tinted, so you couldn't see in the car, so the officer couldn't have any observation in the car visually, and called plain view. So if he sees something that leads to his suspicion that there's a crime about to take place, or or something illegal in the vehicle, that gives him some cause or probable cause to look further in the vehicle. So he couldn't even do that. So the dog, because of his very powerful nose, which we use, and one reason why I use him, when he detects narcotics in or around a car, his nose is so powerful. Like I say, we see with our eyes as dogs see with their nose. So he can go around the exterior of the car, and all cars, whether they look airtight or not, are pushing air out. Every seam, trunk seams, the door seams, especially the driver's door, opened all the time, open, shut. So that creates a void. So air comes out of there. I mean, if there's a powerful smell, if you ever stood on the side of the road, or a car passed you that had heavy smoke smell in it, some sort of smell in it, just washed from Doyle's, and it's got the fragrance on it, and goes by you, and you can smell it. Dogs can do that with that odor that we can't smell. So he can go around the car and he can smell an odor of a narcotic that he's been trained to detect. And he'll show me that he's in that odor, or alerting to that odor, and he'll alert. You'll notice that he'll bracket the car. He'll square his body up. His axis of his body will lean in. His nose will go to that seam and sort of bracket back and forth, and then stay in that area, not want to leave that area. Or if he does, he checks another seam. Well, this time in that deployment, he stayed with that driver's side, moved to the trunk, moved around to the other side, each seam, back and forth. So all those little things that I train with every day that I see indicates to me that he's alerting on that odor, because when I know that odor's around in training and he has that same behavior that he's having now, then that says to me, he's showing me that there's an odor of that narcotic around. So that's called, is behavior, change of behavior, his alerting process. And the job after that is to get to the source of the odor. And when he gets to that source of the odor, where that actual odor is on here, he's gonna get to that source and lay down and stare at it. And so if that odor is inside the car, he can't get to the source. So he may not lay, if it's strong enough, he may lay down and alert with a final response, we call it. But so I was able to see that. So like an officer could look in and gain probable cause by plain view sight. Dog uses his nose to see with, so that creates probable cause when he's alerting to the odor of the narcotic, gives us probable cause to then search the car because he's seen with his nose. And I can articulate that because of our training and experience. So we went in the car and I was thinking, so he locked it. Is he gonna be difficult and not give us the keys now? What's our next course of action? What's gonna happen? So you're always thinking ahead, thinking things through. So I think he knew the game a little bit and knew when I said to him that my dog is telling me that there's narcotics in your car, and or alerting to the odor of narcotics. And he immediately gave us the keys. So I think he knew, which is good. And so the officer in charge of that traffic stop ended up going through and found that the narcotics were dumped in the cup holder. And coffee was dumped on top of it. You could see chunks of stuff floating around in there. And an empty corner cut is what we call it, bag that was on the seat. So basically that doesn't, by trying to mask the odor, that doesn't fool them. In fact, it may have just brought the odor out a little more, who knows? Because they're specifically trained on that odor. With the training aids that we use is pure narcotics. Nothing mixed with them. It's just the pure narcotic that we train with. So when they're alerting to that odor, they're alerting just to the odor, not what it might be cut with, mixed in with. So we can be sure when they're alerting on that narcotic odor, it's the narcotic, not whatever's mixed with it. So that was the first one. So obviously he went to jail that day. And then, let's see, the next one that week we went out and used his patrol side and tracked somebody who had went on the run because he had a warrant. So it was a rainy night. It was getting towards evening, and he decided to run into the woods. And the woods, this time of year, as the vegetation is starting to come out and all the vines are starting to grow, it was very thick in there. And you couldn't walk more than 5 feet without getting tangled into a vine, have to step over or push your way through. And then add on top of that, that part of it was swamp as well that we had to go through. So this guy went in there. Luckily, the success of the dog for tracking a lot of times requires a good perimeter to kind of get officers to be able to surround an area if they can. And it doesn't have to be very close. It's just, so as they keep moving, they may be deterred and then end up staying put or move back. And so they were able to set up a good perimeter to keep the person pinned down and hiding in that area of woods. Now it's our job just to go in and find them and track them in there. So got out Artie's tracking harness, and once I put that on, he knows, now, again, he knows his job to do as soon as you get the harness out. He's all excited. So he finds where the person went into the woods, and we don't need an item of theirs to smell, because he's gonna go for the freshest human odor in that area. So what the best thing we need for a track is just a visual of a person or a witness or the officer specifically last saw this person in that area. As specific as possible is the best, because we can go to that area and give him his command, and he knows to check that area. Whatever fresh human odor is in that area, he's gonna recognize that with his nose and track towards the person, because he's gonna track towards every fresh footprint. And then that's how sensitive their nose is, that they can tell each footprint is fresher than the last. They're gonna track his human odor, they're gonna track the crushed vegetation, the mud that's churned up as you walk through it. And there was a lot churned up in this because it went through a swamp. So with all those gases, coming from the swamp, the human odor mixed in with it, they'll follow all that. So he did, and I track with a harness and leash, so he's pulling me, and he's solid muscle. He's pulling, so I'm going right through the vines. Vines are breaking on me because he's pulling me through. And at the same time, he's bounding, because now we're up to swamp up to our knees. And so he's bounding through some of that, and he's pulling me through, and my backup officer, who's not attached to the leash, he doesn't have the extra pull. He wasn't too happy to be out there following us, and I wouldn't too. I mean, I had the excitement because I'm being pulled by the dog, but he had to just follow along and put him through all the muck and the mud. So anyway, he gets through the swamp, and I can see again in his behavior, the way he's tracking, that I've seen in his training, that he is tracking human odor and he's following somebody, because I see that behavior, his tracking behavior in him. And so I'm going along with him, and he leads out of the swamp just up onto the bank where it's a little higher elevation of land, and then there's a shoe there. So I know we're on track, because must have lost his shoe as he sucks out of the, coming out of the mud. So then right there, I knew we were getting close, because he was pulling into another thick stand of vines and vegetation. And so he, again, just like I said, nosed his way in. Say if he was going for a toy, if I put a toy under the table, how he'd go straight in. So he kind of lowered his head, and like an arrow, put his nose through the vegetation and vines. And nothing was stopping him from getting to this person that's hidden underneath all the tangled vines and vegetation. So once I can tell by his behavior, he's getting close, so I can see and look, and then I finally saw him hiding under there, and I was able to talk to him, and he complied with everything I asked him to do, so that was fine. And so on the warrant that they were looking, to get him on, he was arrested on that. So so that was that one. That was fairly exciting. It was. It probably happened quicker than the story I just told too, because. But
Artie required a bath after that, didn't he?
he did. I rinsed him off. The great thing about that is at the Sally Port at the station, we have a hose and a drain in the Sally Port inside. So spring or summer or winter, we can wash them off. Let me just. That was a station calling, but it wasn't important. I'm just going to the last deployment of that week that I mentioned that you had asked about. was a car stop, another car stop, some of his narcotic detection on 91, which we were called to. We were working, so we were the closest dog available, and so we were called to do that. And because things didn't add up. They weren't finding what they wanted to find, not what they wanted to find, but what they thought they were going to find. Everything, all the clues, all the suspicion that led up to what their suspicions were, they weren't finding it. But the suspicions were there, so they called for a dog to use his nose to look for something that we wouldn't have been able to see. So I got to the car stop and again went around the car. He alerted to that. We checked inside the car. The dog can also go inside the car and find the narcotics in the car. And he'll do the same, like I mentioned, the final response or the alerting to the source of the odor. He'll go to the source. So he actually went in this car and alerted all over in the car to the front console area and then to the front seat of the vehicle on the passenger side. So all those alerts, again, through training experience, I could see that those alerts were on the odor of a narcotic that he's trained and certified to detect. So, but we couldn't find it. It wasn't in the car. And so they had already patted down the occupants of the car, 2 of them, and nothing stood out for, because pat down is mainly for dangerous weapons, things like that, when you have them on the car, because you don't want any kind of a, dangerous situation to erupt. And so once we couldn't find it in the car and I could see Artie's alerts to the odor, they suggested that the occupants be checked again. Well, they did, and on the passenger there was 400 bags of narcotics, drugs in his undergarments. The best way to put that, I guess. So just by the dog saying that there's something here, I'm smelling the odor of this stuff that I'm supposed to smell and what I usually get rewarded for, and I can see that in his behavior. Well, it's not there. Under the seat, seat cushions, behind the seat, everywhere. So that led to believe that just that odor from being in the undergarments and sitting on it, that the molecules of the odor just dissipate, not dissipates, but just spreads through, and the material will soak it in, whatever. So the odor's there. So the dog alerts on the odor, even if that substance has been removed. Just as I always, think of it as if you've ever cooked microwave popcorn. Everyone, pretty strong odor once you cook that in the microwave, especially if you burn it. And then you take it out, whether you eat it or throw it out. If you open up that microwave again or go back into the kitchen or that area where the microwave is, you walk outside, okay, fresh air, you walk back in, that odor hits you like a ton of bricks. So that's intent, that, with a dog's nose, that's how intense some of their, nose work is, with the, things that we can't smell, but, just putting in layman's terms, how to kind of visually see how a dog uses, can smell with their nose compared to ours. So.
Now, would they have used the dog to smell it on the person that was hidden in the underwear? You said they got in the car. Then they patted down the person.
Yeah.
Then they patted the person
Generally, no. He's he's a passive alert dog. So years ago, when they alerted on things like that, they would scratch at the source of the odor.
Oh.
So a lot of times that can be sort of destructive.
Exactly.
And especially if they're have an odor and they're scratching at an odor, but the stuff might not be there, then you have, so they went to passive alert dog. So he'll lay down and point his nose to it passively, so he's not being destructive. With that being said, we don't normally have the dog sniff people because of possible intimidation or possible accidents, things like that. There's nothing really said that you can't, but it's not a good practice. But like it would be more probable with I guess my point is with the passive and aggressive alert dog, to use a passive dog if you were to sniff a human. But that's more for your airports with things like that, where you have a dog that's just their job to do is to detect odors of whatever they're detecting. But with a full-blown patrol dog that does a bunch of different things, we don't really get into that. But just by the whole situation, just with putting it all together, where he alerted, and just deducting what could, what's next, thinking about it, using your common sense. So he's alerting on the odor. Where else could it be? Light bulb, it's on the person.
Okay,
Yeah. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay. Yeah.
I have two questions. One is, are we not gonna get to see Artie today?
I thought you were just enjoying seeing me or
left.
hearing me
He got
talk.
out of
Yeah,
the cruiser and took off.
he's driving around. In fact, I think he just answered a call from me, so
I
he should be
didn't know if you
back.
said he was out there in your cruiser, and we
Yep.
could at least say hello or
Oh,
goodbye
absolutely.
when
Yeah.
we left.
Yeah.
But he's out there
Oh, yeah.
on the job?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. Anyway, the other question was, that you had said before, that other towns
Oh.
call you sometimes, when they have a need for
Mhm.
a
Well-
dog, and they don't have one. Do you have a set radius of how far around the area you travel with Artie to other towns?
Not really. I mean,
No.
yes and no.
not
Generally, we're going to get called to the Franklin County area, to the
Okay.
different towns within Franklin County.
Yeah,
We've worked outside because our training group, the training group that we train with, there's dogs from all over Western Mass. Berkshires to southern, Hamden, Hampshire County,
yeah.
all over. And we all train together, we all know each other. So, within departments, we'll network with each other too. If that department's using a dog and they might need another dog there, or if they're not available, they might call us too. So that doesn't happen that often, but we can go outside of the county and work. And if, I've been called a few times, and of course it's not our county, but it's close, and it's fairly close.
Yeah.
I've gone to Amherst because I work with the Amherst dogs. A lot of times if they're working on something big and they need, a few more dogs than what they have, they'll call knowing I'm fairly close
Yeah.
and help them out. In fact, the other night, he was on a car stop and he had called, not for me to go out, but just to network and just ask some advice on working his dog with the vehicle, because I've done a little bit more than him, so he was looking for some advice on just working his dog. So we'll network and we'll go and help out anywhere. So
That's cool.
yeah,
I didn't know.
right.
Oh,
Yeah,
So it's just a neutral.
it doesn't happen that often. I mean, it within the different areas, we work close to a few different other towns around here because we border each other. So we're
Sure.
constantly, hearing, or we'll back them up on regular calls, as well as if it's a use of a tool of a canine, because not every department has a canine. They can be, it's a good spot to go into this, canines can be fairly expensive to have on the department. That's why with our program, the canine is mostly funded through, or just about all funded through donations by the community. So Artie was paid for through donations. His foods, you know, how he eats, his foods, you know, bought through donations. His medical care, his veterinary care is through donations. I've been talking too long. I want you to meet the dog. You can't stay a little bit? Once I finish this. But you know, I can end with that. I can end with the fact that we run off of donations, and that's how Artie stays healthy. That's how he eats and trains, and is able to continue going out on these deployments, and you know, so it is through donations. We'll get paid. Even the vehicle a few years ago, I decided that you already need a new, safe, reliable vehicle, because usually the canine vehicles are the hand-me-downs from the cruisers that are just about to be sent to the boneyard, and they slap a cage in it and then send you on your way. So it was necessary, because the cargo of a dog is pretty important, and especially in the different weathers, especially in summer with the heat. You want a good, reliable air-conditioned system, and if that fails, you want a system that's going to back that up and have a fan kick on, have the windows roll down automatically, and have an alert to me through a pager that something's happening and I need to get back to that vehicle now. So for instance, if I'm in another police call that doesn't require the dog, and something happens, something fails. So for a year and a half, we collected donations and raised close to $50,000 for a new vehicle, and that's what we have now. It's a couple years old now, but we continue to solicit some donations to keep his fund up. So that's an ongoing process of fundraising, and that's really another job on top of this job. You know, I'm a police officer, I have a canine, so I'm a canine officer and do all the training. And then the third job is going out and being public relations and holding some fundraising events. And so it's a lot of work. But I will say all that work is, in the end, is just very rewarding, and I would not change it. Let's meet the dog now. So, what I'm going to do, I mentioned his toy and his reward. I'll bring him out with that. I'll do a little bit of obedience here just to show you, his obedience. And then I'll give him his reward. I'll give him his toy, his tug. Once that's in his mouth, he's not going to let it go. He's okay. He's okay. He's very sociable. He has a great personality. Once he has that tug in his mouth, he's not going to let it go. So you can pat him. He'll probably come up to you and want you to touch his toy. You can, but be careful. He's going to shake his head. So you'll see. So. Okay. So,
There he comes.
First, watch out. We'll let him go to the bathroom. Because that's the first thing he does. He comes out. He'll go. Hurry up. And he likes to walk while he goes to the bathroom, apparently. So, but you'll see, if I walked around, he's gonna wanna, where are we gonna go? He's gonna smell something, do something. He's ready to work. He's always ready to work. So, but I can put him to work now in the obedience. No. So he'll go from just being kind of crazy, and running around looking for something to do, and I give him a command, and he's right into his obedience. Laney. Lady. In certification, he's required to stay in a down position away from me for 3 minutes, which he does very well. I tested for over that. Train him above bar. No. Okay. Oh. Lady. No. Back. So now I guess.
Hey Artie, how you doing?
Now, just like us, when we do a good job and we work hard, we're like, hey, look what I did. Notice me. That's what he's doing right now. He's going around with his toy. Yep. He's going around. He's saying, look at what I just earned. So he's proud of that. He's showing that off. But you can see that's what training is. They train, once they get the reward, they're like, all right. And that's how they work. And he's, like I said, he's a very sociable dog. But you can see once he goes to work, he's very intense. He's very focused and intense.
Sure is. Wow.
But what you'll see, be careful, but it's like if you even touch the side of his toy.
No way.
Yeah.
That's my toy.
Oh. See? That's operating error on my fault because I have him on a long line.
I got some good pictures of you and Artie.
Oh, good.
I'll put them on Facebook.
All right. Do that because now I can put a face to the name on Facebook.
Yeah.
So he's constantly working. And you know what? That's one of the behaviors. When they're working, his tail's wagging.
Yeah.
When he's tracking, his tail's alert. When he does, I mentioned with the patrol work, he does aggression work too. So if he runs into someone who's aggressive to him, he's going to bite them. He's going to bite and hold on. And when he's doing that, every dog that does it, their tail's wagging.
Is he a full shepherd?
He's part Belgian Malinois,
I wonder.
which they look a lot like shepherds.
Yeah. He's got Belgian colors. Yeah.
We do. There's some dogs, but they're so much better at it over there.
That's terrible.
Yeah, but that's what they've done for so many years. And if you think about we getting, this with him being a good dog here, an intense dog, think of the dogs they're selecting. They have first pick at him over there, you know what I mean? He might be a second-hand pick to us, but he's pretty good. Belgian Malinois. 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 So I haven't had him tested. He didn't, I just see in his behaviors, his tail will curl up like a scorpion. That's not a shepherd trait, but it's more of a Belgian Malinois trait. So I personally think there's a mix of shepherd and Belgian in him.
Are you on call 24/7?
Yes,
You are.
but I can if I can't go, I can turn it down. I don't have to go. A lot of times I do, just because if they're needing the resource and the tool of a dog,
Right.
I'm going to go.
So you could be called anytime.
Right.
Day or night.
Yes. And plenty of times we do
that pretty collar?
get called.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I get used to it. Well, not really. You don't get used to it. What am I talking about?
It's not unexpected.
That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
How much does he weigh?
He weighs anywhere from 63 to 65 pounds, and that's been consistent his whole life. So,
Good trait to
so you can see, I mean, he looks thick, but you can see, there, it's easier to see with him. He's solid muscle. He's got a really thick coat. You can't even see his skin when you pull the fur back, but these little lines, that's not from just brushing. That's his fur. But you can really see, you know, when he's breathing, you can see a little bit of the rib cage here is what you want to see. We always talk about them as being like a professional athlete if they were a human, you know, just that's what they do. That's what their job is, just to work like that. And he's constantly working and being trained, and so he's in shape.
Now, what will happen if I go next to you?
Probably nothing.
Nothing?
I mean, if you came and tackled me,
No.
he might drop his toy and go after you.
Yeah, but, you know.
Are you going to tackle me?
I will.
Okay.
Does he have
I love
generally sort of the same personal groomer that
Yes, me.
keeps him looking good?
Me.
You?
Yeah.
You're the groomer?
I'm the groomer.
Really?
I'm his everything. How about that?
Oh, that's very nice.
Yeah, hold on.
Training, that his reward, he'll never have that in his mouth as long as he does during these presentations. Because here, pushed. I take it, so he's got to earn it back. Here, lady. There's good. So he earns it. So when he does something for it, I'm going to want to make him want that again and keep working hard. But for safety purposes, to you know, because he'll look for a reward if he's not getting it, thinking he's doing something good. So he might, something in someone's hand, like a coffee cup, like a camera like that, or a phone, he might kind of want to nip at to go get as a toy. So to prevent that, he has his toy in his mouth, which he's not going to let go longer than normal. He would smell them. I would not be, because I didn't give him the command, I wouldn't be looking for his behaviors. So I might look past the behaviors, but if I was concentrated on it and gave him the command, I would. So you can see he's just very sociable. He becomes, once he gets comfortable, he's got a good personality. So I guess the selection, I guess he was the right choice.
Yes, I would say so.
And I do have to say too, his name originally from Slovakia was Arthur, spelled A-R-T-U-R. Arthur. So I said, I think I'm going to change that. So that weekend, I mulled it over. What should I do? I finally looked up the name Arthur, and of course, as King Arthur, the definition was noble and courageous. So then I said, it's going to stay. So his full name's Arthur. I shorten it to Artie. I actually, believe it or not, when I talk to him in the car, he's Arthur to me. And so I also wanted to make it a name that wasn't very aggressive of a name. And I wanted the dog to make the name, not the name to make the dog. If that makes sense. And I think he's made the name.
Yeah.
What's that?
That's right.
Yeah.